Yonex All England Open Badminton Championship 2022 secara langsung di Astro.
Good evening, I'm Cynthia Ng and this is AWANI Tonight. Johorians usher in new era of Menteri Besar Dato' Onn Hafiz. And Rafizi planning a stunning comeback to active politics. That's coming up. Machab State Assembly person Dato' Onn Hafiz Ghazi was sworn in as the 19th Johor Menteri Besar today. The grandson of former Prime Minister Tun Hussein Onn was sworn in by the Sultan of Johor, Sultan Ibrahim Sultan Iskandar, at Istana Bukit Serene, Johor Bahru. The 44-year-old on Tuesday received a letter of appointment and took his oath of office. Onn Hafiz previously held the State Tourism, Youth and Sports Committee portfolio. In the Johor polls last Saturday, he defeated 3 other contestants for the Machab seat with a majority of 11,029 votes. Onn Hafiz is the great-grandson of Dato' Onn Jaafar, UMNO's founding member and first president, as well as the nephew of Senior Defence Minister Dato' Sri Hishamuddin Hussein. The appointment of Dato' Onn Hafiz Ghazi as Johor's new Menteri Besar came as a surprise to many. However, political analyst from Singapore Institute of International Affairs, Dr. O.A. Sun, believes this presents a chance for the incoming state administration to introduce fresh policy ideas.
The appointment of Hafiz was rather obviously not to the liking of UMNO's own party leadership. But of course, there's pressure from somewhere else, and at the end of the day, he is appointed. Now that he is the new Menteri Besar, of course, it would actually be somewhat of a dilemma for a lot of voters because they hope that Hasni would continue as MB and continue with his, for example, economic revival efforts and so on. But on the other hand, as we said, having a youngish guy as the new MB would hopefully usher in a trend for the rest of the country. So I think both the voters of Johor as well as UMNO's leadership is sort of put into a situation of having to, well, not exactly choosing between one and the other, but accepting this fate accompli and perhaps make the best use of it.
He added that by having a relatively young MB, Johorians would expect fresh policies, especially with young voters playing a big role in the country's political landscape.
But of course, he's a youngish leader, about I think 43 or 44 years old, and previously holding, for example, the youth and sports portfolio in the state. So of course, with Undi 18 now coming into being and younger voters playing a more significant role in the nation's political discourse, it is hopeful that Onn Hafiz would hopefully have better connections with the younger generations. When he rolls out his new policies, hopefully they'll be more youth-friendly and so on. Yeah.
After UMNO's resounding win in the Johor state election as leader of the Barisan National Coalition, there are talks about whether some quarters of the party may step up their demands for dissolution of parliament soon. We asked political analyst Professor Dr. Kartini Khalid about what to expect from UMNO's General Assembly scheduled to start on Wednesday.
To discuss UMNO, there are two kind of category. One is the PWTC UMNO, consists of the MPs and DUN and Majlis Tertinggi members. And you know the president is Zahid Hamidi as the UMNO president. And he has the power, and the president has the power to call all 191 ketua bahagian. While on the contrary, if you have to look at Prime Minister, also an UMNO member, may not be able to enjoy that privilege. The second category, and the two sides, one side is the PWTC UMNO, the second side is the Putrajaya UMNO. This is the federal government, consists of the MP parliaments who hold the ministry, the deputy ministry, all these political secretary, the secretary position. They are what I consider as the Perikatan Nasional Alliance. They are different members. They have UMNO, they have Bersatu, and they have PAS inside as the federal government that form the federal government, members of the cabinet. And the leader is UMNO member, Prime Minister Ismail Sabri. So when we look at this PWTC UMNO, I believe that this PWTC UMNO may not share a similar agenda or interest as the Putrajaya UMNO. Okay, if we listen to Ismail Sabri again and again, repeatedly, he said he's not pushing the idea to have the GE15 so soon. Ismail is pushing for a clean and integrity UMNO. He's pushing the agenda for a new leadership. And now that the people, knowing after the result of Johor state election, Melaka and Sarawak, we know that they have the significant support from the people. So I think the 191 Ketua Bahagian UMNO must support Ismail Sabri rather than supporting the court cluster. Supporting the court cluster, I still consider it is bad for UMNO and BN.
Rafizi Ramli will return to active politics and will be vying for the KEADILAN Deputy President post in the upcoming party elections in April. In a statement today, the former Pandan MP said that his goals were to pursue progressive multi-ethnic politics. Explaining his decision to return to politics, Rafizi said he realized KEADILAN and Pakatan Harapan had become the third choice behind BN UMNO and Perikatan Nasional after the Johor election. This, he said, suggests that progressive multi-ethnic politics is in danger if KEADILAN and Harapan continue to be the third choice because of the failure in attracting fan-sitters. Rafizi became politically inactive after the party leadership election in late 2018, which saw him narrowly losing to Datuk Sri Azmin Ali in the race to be deputy president. In the statement, he also said that Harapan Presidential Council has agreed to discuss with Perikatan Nasional on the possibility of working together to face the next general election. Rafizi criticized the strategy, saying too much focus is given to forming coalitions to vie for power, but efforts to alleviate the rakyat's suffering and offer solutions are forgotten. Health Minister Khairy Jamaluddin is expected to table a white paper on reforms to the national healthcare system in Parliament this November. He hopes proposals for the document would receive bipartisan support to ensure that the white paper would be a joint document and aspiration regardless of who becomes government. Khairy added that the document will also submit proposals for solution in phases in terms of service delivery, financing, governance, as well as organization over the period of 15 years. He explained that the white paper is an initiative of the Health Ministry to open debate and discussion with the people as well as stakeholders on the nation's health system, which needed sustainable improvements. According to Khairy, among issues identified in the current system were lack of staff, overcrowding, lack of funds and equipment at clinics and hospitals, especially in the emergency department. We'll continue after the break. Stay with us.
Bahmun semua padian, lihatlah Awani Borneo jam 7 malam setiap hari, banyak berita-berita cerita kita ni hanya di Astro Awani.
Welcome back to developments on the war in Ukraine. The European Union had agreed to a fourth package of sanctions that will include a ban on steel products and investments across the Russian energy sector. The sale of some luxury goods worth more than €300 to Russia will also be banned. The West hopes to cripple the financing of Kremlin's war machinery as Russia continues its assault on Ukraine. The capital, Kiev, announced that a 35-hour curfew will begin this evening after missile strikes hit several residential apartment blocks in the city, killing 2 people. The attack on Ukraine's capital comes as Russian and Ukrainian officials prepare to continue talks following a 4th round of negotiations yesterday. Discussions had so far produced very few results other than some humanitarian corridors out of cities in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Ukrainian presidential advisor Oleksiy Arestovich said that the war would likely end once Russia runs out of resources to attack its neighbor. He said a peace agreement is expected no later than May, but did not rule out small tactical clashes that could remain possible for a year. China has denied reports that Beijing has expressed willingness to provide military assistance to Russia in its invasion of Ukraine. It also accused the U.S. of spreading misinformation. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Zhao Lijian said the top priority at the moment is for all parties to exercise restraint and work for diplomatic settlement rather than further escalate the situation. The U.S. had warned China that assistance for Russia, including helping it avert sanctions imposed by the U.S. and Western allies, would be costly for them. President Joe Biden's administration is increasingly concerned that China is using the Ukraine war to advance Beijing's long-term interests in its competition with the United States. Mainland China is seeing a rise in daily domestic COVID-19 cases. Experts say the next few weeks will be crucial in determining whether China's tough zero-COVID policy is still effective against the rapidly spreading Omicron variant. Nearly 5,300 cases were reported on Tuesday, more than double the previous day's tally and the highest daily count since the start of the pandemic. More than half of these cases were reported in the northeastern province of Jilin. Authorities have banned its 24 million residents from leaving the province or traveling between cities. China is grappling with its largest surge of COVID-19 infections since the virus first emerged more than 2 years ago in Wuhan, putting its zero-tolerance strategy to test. According to reports, much of the current outbreak is being driven by the stealth Omicron, or the BA2 of the Omicron variant. Myanmar will start accepting the Thai baht as an official currency for settling border trade transactions this month, in a bid to reduce the country's dependency on the US dollar. Thailand is the second country after China to allow its national currency to be exchangeable with the Myanmar kyat for border trade activities. Myanmar's Ministry of Information and Investment also said it is looking at using the Indian rupee for such trade. It said reducing dependence on the US dollar would help mitigate the risk of sudden exchange rate swings due to external geopolitical factors and help reduce inflation caused by appreciation of the dollar. Women and girls are disproportionately impacted by the climate crisis, which is why including their voices in climate action is crucial. Tonight on Consider This, Melissa Idris asked our guest about the interaction between gender, social equity and climate change solutions. That's coming up right after AWANI Tonight. That is all we have for you on AWANI Tonight. Get the latest news updates on astroawani.com or from the Astro AWANI app. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching.
Keseluruhan jajaran projek MRT3 yang melibatkan laluan sepanjang 51 km di Lembah Kelang dijangka beroperasi sepenuhnya pada tahun 2030.